Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fight Addicts. Get ready to explore the past, present, and future of MMA with your hosts, Seth Oliver and Ben Korn.
What's happening, guys, and welcome to episode number 22 of The Fight Addicts. This episode was recorded on August the 11th, 2019. In this episode, we interview a guest that's very personal to me. I was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I lived there for the first 6 years of my life. So for me, interviewing a former Alabama football player is something really cool and something that I never thought that I'd be doing. Add that player is now currently fighting in the UFC, and that's something truly special for me, as those are the two sports that I've grown up really paying attention to and what I consider myself a true fan of. Specifically, this guest played at the University of Alabama from 2006 to 2009, where he led the Crimson Tide in tackles and a forced fumble in the 2009 BCS National Championship game, in which Alabama defeated the Texas Longhorns. Following football, he transitioned, not very smoothly as you'll find out in the episode, into MMA, where he became the inaugural Legacy Fighting Alliance middleweight champion and currently competes in the UFC's middleweight and light heavyweight divisions, having wins over Vinicius Moreira, Tim Williams, and Marcus Perez. It was such an honor to have my favorite active fighter on the show, and I'm super thankful that I had the opportunity to do this. So, without further ado, here is your boy, Eryk Anders. Eryk Anders, thank you so much for joining us, man. How are you?
Man, I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So go ahead and getting started about your life. You were born at the Clark Air United States Air Force Base in the Philippines due to your mother being stationed there. So how long did you live in the Philippines? Because that was something that I did not know about you. I just figured you were born and raised in Alabama.
Nah, my mom was in the Air Force, and I was born in the Philippines and lived there until I was about 2. And then we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Stayed there for about 5 years. Went to Okinawa, Japan from there. Lived there for about 3 years. Then Prattville, Alabama, lived there for about 9 months. Then went to Washington, D.C. Lived there for about 3 years. And then I went to and finished high school in San Antonio, Texas.
It's crazy. You moved around a lot as a kid.
Yeah. And I've been in Alabama off and on since 2005. So
Gotcha.
This is home now, I guess.
Gotcha. So as a child, when was the first time that you heard anything about like MMA or anything kind of related to fighting? Because I knew that you had said in some interviews that you grew up like fighting in the streets and stuff. But
yeah, man, I was, one of those troublesome kids, not like, I went, it's just kids, man. I don't know any kids that are my age that, when they were growing up didn't get in a fight. I think it's just kind of, especially, in the 90s, that's kind of, and before, I think now kids are a little bit more desensitized and, they get in trouble for fighting. But, when I was growing up, we fought, all the time. And then, we were not no turf war or nothing like that. But, hey, that's mine. No, it's not, or someone gets shoved too hard playing football or basketball or whatever. And then after it's over with, a day or two later, everybody's cool again. So,
yeah,
that's just kind of the way it was. And, I'm 5 out of 6 kids. So, it's just kind of how you have to be being that far down on the totem pole.
Right. And what's the gender of your siblings? Like, did you have a lot of brothers, sisters? What were the other 5?
Yeah, I got 2 older sisters and then 4 boys straight. Man, it's just very territorial in the house,
Yeah.
We didn't live in like huge houses or nothing when we were growing up. So, it's just everybody just on top of each other. It just kind of gets annoying, and little skirmishes break out, and like I said, 5 minutes later, everybody's cool again.
Yeah. So, like you'd stated earlier, your family moved to San Antonio. So your sophomore year of high school, you played at Smithson Valley High School, standout player, and then you decide to go to Alabama. I heard it was kind of a weird story how you got your scholarship. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I wasn't very highly recruited out of high school. I think my only offers were like Memphis, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, and Alabama came super late. I was actually headed to Ole Miss, just because they were the SEC. I'm not a fan of it says the South shall rise again in their fight song, and they have a plantation owner. They have a plantation owner as their mascot. So I was like, man, I'm not really feeling that.
Yeah.
But, it's the SEC, and just like any kid who plays high school football, the dream is to go play forever in the NFL. So, I was like, whatever. The SEC is clearly the best conference in college football.
Amen.
So,
That was
I'll
was
go play.
That was the thought I had when you said that Memphis recruited you. If you had like a highlight reel against Memphis's opponents, like if you had gotten on the field, like you stood out at Alabama, but if you had gotten to play for Memphis, like the destruction that would have been rained down on, what is it, like the American Conference?
I think they're
like,
Conference USA.
Yeah, Conference USA. Like that would have been a highlight reel, man. Like if you wanted to get to stand out and shine.
But man, there's a lot of guys. Like there was a dude who played at New Mexico who broke like the NCAA rushing record and never played in the NFL because they just said that he was a big fish in a small pond kind of thing. So, and I really like to test myself, and that's when like Patrick Willis was at Ole Miss, so he was the man. And then Alabama came in super late, like 2 weeks before camp started. Like 2 weeks before school started, actually, and I was like, man, it's Alabama can't be much better, but it's certainly better than them praising the South shall rise again and their fight song and whatnot. So I think I'll take my chances over there.
Gotcha. So you get redshirted your freshman year. I guess you weren't really expecting that. You had said in a Fox Sports interview, you were kind of going in, with the big dream of starting your freshman year and all that. So you don't get a lot of playing time when you go to Alabama at first. You didn't even play a snap in the Independence Bowl against Colorado. So what were the feelings like at that time? Like, were you kind of rethinking it all, or what was going through your head?
Yeah, I think that was my redshirt sophomore year. We played Colorado and didn't get much playing time. Didn't get any playing time in that game. And, I just kind of thought, maybe the SEC, this Alabama thing is just too much. I want to go somewhere else. So, at least get to play my last 2 years somewhere. And my dad kind of talked me out of it, told me that, man, at least get your degree. So even if you don't if the NFL thing doesn't work out, at least you have a college degree to fall back on.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was telling my girlfriend in prepping for this, I was like, I'm about to tear up just like reading his story. Because in the part when it came to your dad, the words that I wrote down were that he told you to stick it out, outwork everybody. And you said that talk changed your life, because the next day he unfortunately passed away. So how much of an impact was that going into the next season to just be pretty much the beast that you became your senior year?
Man, that was huge. I think that when you have like a conversation like that under those circumstances, it kind of makes it has a bigger significance and carries a much greater weight. So I think that was like the first time when I just felt like this isn't just about me. There are other people that have a lot invested in you, in me, and want to see me be successful. So all the background stuff, all the nonsense. What can I do to be the best player that I could be? So basically, man, I just lived in the weight room, lived in the film room, outworked everybody, and got a lot of playing time going into my junior year. Kind of settled in as a third down rusher, quarterback rusher off the end there, and had a lot of success doing that. And my senior year, I ended up starting all 14 games.
Yeah. And then, obviously, I'm a huge Alabama fan. And I'll never forget in that 2009 national championship game when you got that sack on Garrett Gilbert, I think it was a little over 3 minutes left to play. And, that was so huge. And obviously, I would assume probably the biggest play of your career. Because, I know that one play doesn't win a game, but when you look back on it, it's like if you were to pick one, that's the one.
Dude, that play is like, the stars aligned. 1, I stayed at Alabama. 2, we made it to the national championship. 2 years later. And 3, we played Texas. I'm from San Antonio. Where I'm from in San Antonio is like 90 minutes from Austin, Texas. And, you know, I was a huge Ricky Williams and Vince Young fan. And, you know, they were seniors when I was, you know, my freshman year at Bama is when they won the Rose Bowl. And so, man, you know, I didn't, you know, they didn't give me a look, didn't give me a shot, just like, you know, a lot of teams didn't. But, you know, being in their backyard, you know, I kind of took a little personal and had a little chip on my shoulder about it. So, you know, going into that game, I just wanted to ball out.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely did. So, yeah, I mean, you even led the team in tackles that game. So, what was it like winning a national championship? Real quick, I did wanted to ask you that, even though I know this is an MMA podcast, but how would you describe that feeling?
Dude, it was great, man. And, you know, especially like, you know, I think that the circumstance in which things happen have, like, you know, impact the, you know, how significant it is. Like, that was Bama's first national championship in, you know, 17 years or something like that.
Yeah, since 92.
You know, yeah, so they had a big, you know, tradition of winning, you know, and they've been doing it ever since. So it kind of set the trend and put the wheels in motion for where they're at now. Also, it was my very last college football game against Texas, you know, which I was a Texas fan, you know, pretty much my whole life. And so, you know, going undefeated, winning a national championship, having a big play in the national championship, you know, it's you know, it's really difficult to put into words the significance and how much it means to me.
Yeah. And then the final question about college football, but has there been anything in particular that Coach Saban said that's like stuck with you, specifically like in your fighting career, like things that you've learned from him that you still apply today?
Man, you know, he always talked about each game has a life and a history of its own. So you don't get credit for what you did last week, you know, in the game before, or in my case, in the fight before. You know, you can go from knocking somebody out, winning a performance bonus, to getting knocked out the next fight and somebody winning a performance bonus on you. So, you know, it makes it real easy to, you know, keep your head level and then, you know, not get too high in the clouds, especially in this game, man. We're playing 4-ounce gloves. So, you know, on paper, you should go out there and kill somebody. But, you know, sometimes they don't get the memo, you know. So you have to treat every fight like it's like, you know, he always said play every game like it's a national championship. And, you know, you just kind of fight every fight like you're fighting for the belt.
Right. I really like that. So following college, you go.
Can I ask one quick
go ahead, Ben.
College football question? Just one quick college football question to pick your brain about this. So at Alabama, you never played Georgia Tech, right? Correct?
Never.
Because I'm a Georgia Tech fan, and I would remember that if you guys killed us, because that would be what would happen. But like, if you were going in, so did you ever play an option team at Alabama? Like where it was like they are going to run the football every down?
I don't think so. Not when I was there. But then I remember them playing maybe like a Division I AA team.
Yeah, on like
it wasn't Navy, but like maybe they played somebody like Duke or somebody like that did that had like 600 yards rushing on Bama or something like that, some astronomical number of rush yards against Bama.
I was just wondering, as a defensive player, a good, solid defensive player like yourself in the SEC, when you hear that someone's going to do something specific and they're not going to stop, they're going to cut block you at every opportunity, they're going to get called for chop blocks repeatedly because they're going to do basically dirty cut blocks on you all game long. Like, what goes through your head when you're preparing for that game? Are you like, it's just another team? Or are you like, ugh?
Yeah, man. But to be honest with you, man, you know, I think that teams are like one-dimensional like that. Like we played Virginia Tech, and they did a lot of that, like veer option, jet sweep kind of stuff.
Yeah,
or tried to at least.
Right.
But I think if everybody plays assignment football, you know you're going to get cut, so you got to play with your hands. And then the high school, we played a lot of teams like that in high school, so I was already kind of used to that anyways. And I think, you just have to be super disciplined against teams like that. Everybody's got to be in their place, play their assignment. You can't be way over here trying to do something for somebody else.
Right.
You're gonna be the one to get cussed out, or
Yeah.
let them have a big play or whatever. So,
they're gonna pitch it when you do that.
Yeah,
Go try and
exactly.
help.
So,
Yeah. Oh no.
Florida did some stuff like that. And, we kind of shut them down. So we had we played teams that did stuff like that,
Right.
not 100% dependent on it, like Navy used to be,
Georgia
or Georgia Tech is,
Yeah.
or whatever. But
we're gonna go 1-12
spread now, right?
1-11. Yeah, it's gonna be bad because we've still got the players from the option. But yeah, anyway, that's my little thing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no
appreciate
problem.
that.
Yeah. So following college ball, you get signed with the Browns, cut by the Browns. You go play in the Canadian Football League for the Calgary Stampeders, get cut by them, and then you quit playing arena football after a year, and then you find yourself working 9 to 5 as a janitor in Birmingham, Alabama. So at that point, what's going through your head? Because I'm sure that you had these big dreams of probably going to have a career out of football, and then all of a sudden, you're just working the average job.
Man, I was certainly in a different tax bracket than I thought that I was going to be in. And just bouncing around, man. I cleaned factories, I cleaned apartments. Was a janitor at a lab core, kind of where they test people's blood and stuff like that. Worked for Coca-Cola, delivering, working on the truck, getting off the truck, bringing the sodas in the gas station and whatnot.
What was that like?
Man, one particular day, man, there's one day in particular where I don't think I've ever been so. Have you ever been so mad you couldn't speak? I just couldn't find the words. Yelling wouldn't do it, cussing wouldn't do it.
It's just a dark silence.
Man, just true anger, rage. Man, so I was an assistant at the time, so somebody else drove the truck. I rode shotgun and just helped them unload and load the truck. And on this particular day, the lady said, "We have too much Coke products. Pepsi's finna go on sale. You guys need to take this Coke back to the factory or whatever." So cool. So we put, I think it was 120 12 packs. I don't know what 120 times 12 is, but I'm assuming it's a big number. So it's all these 12 packs on this pallet jack, and we're trying to take it out the back door. And man, the lip on this door, I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the pallet jack, and I'm like, man, we're not going to get this over this lip of this door. Man, it's just, old people think they know everything. He said, man, you're just not doing it right. Watch out, step aside. And man, he yanks this thing over the the back two wheels, boom, and all these Cokes start shaking. And I'm just like, man, it's not going to work. And man, he yanks the second set of wheels, and it's just like Jenga. All these sodas just tipped over, and all I heard was, and man, they all tore out of the box, and you can't just leave it there. So now there's, whatever, 100. Whatever, man. There's a lot of soda cans just laying in this parking lot.
Yeah.
At 12 noon in a cloudless Alabama summer. Man, it's probably 100 degrees outside. It took us 2 hours to pick up all these sodas.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And, man, you don't get paid by the hour. It's
you picked up 1,440 sodas.
Pretty much.
Your story. Yeah.
Pretty much. And everything but the last row fell off.
Okay. At least you got the last one, man.
Man, I guess if you want to look on the brighter side of things, but I'm pissed off at the other 11 or the other, 120 12 packs or whatever that fell off this thing. And, man, I was just I was angry, so angry. It's like I could have caught an assault charge that day and I wouldn't have cared. Man, I just wanted to wring this dude's neck. And, man, it was at that moment I was like, man, I already knew I didn't want to do that forever because I was already fighting and training at the time. And, man, you already know the bosses are like, man, that's cool that you fight, but we don't want you talking to customers with a black eye. So, I was just like, okay, I was like, whatever. And
talking to customers, aren't you like the guy who unloads the Coke? Like, why would you talk to anybody?
Yeah, but you have to like talk to the dude who owns the store, whoever's working, and I didn't care, man. I was just doing what I had to do so I could do what I wanted to do. You know what I mean?
I don't understand why it would matter to them, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know neither. I just had to like print out a receipt. They check and see what all we're bringing in and make sure that everything is right or whatever.
I've worked at a gas station before. I understand exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so I think every job I had, they said that. He's like, oh, that's cool, but and then I got a job with the government. It's called Redstone Arsenal.
Okay.
It's man, it's like the number one sought after place in America by terrorists. They do a lot of research, test, and development of weapons out there. Albert Einstein, Werner von Braun, they all used to live out there. And,
wow, that's crazy.
Do all that, science stuff out there. NASA's out there. So, it's a pretty big deal what goes on out there. I'd be working in my little cubicle and hear like explosions going off. The building was shaking and whatnot.
Dude, that's
so it was a pretty cool gig. I got to travel and whatnot. So my contract, and like I said, I was already training and fighting as an amateur, and my contract ran out, and man, I just I moved to Birmingham without pot the piss in or window to throw it out of. Just packed up all my stuff. The lady let me out of my lease in my apartment, and I've been living here ever since.
Gotcha. So in that Fox Sport interview that I was listening to, it said that you literally just like walked into the gym, got asked if you could fight, and then on that day you ended up sparring heavyweight Walt Harris at the gym that you trained in Alabama. So what was that first sparring session like with Walt Harris?
Yeah, so this is like, man, shortly after I quit playing football, when I came back to Birmingham, I was working, just found myself frustrated, pissed off, and just wanted to, just looking for some exercise and blow off some steam. So through a mutual friend, I meet Walt Harris, who's a huge Alabama fan. So I was like, man, they tell me you fight and whatnot. I think it might be something I want to do. And he was like, hell yeah, come to the gym, blah, blah, blah. So I show up at the gym when he tells me to show up. And, man, I didn't know it was like competition team training. I thought there'd be like classes going on. I could jump in, hit the bag, do a little jiu-jitsu, wrestle around a little bit. Man, there wasn't nothing but, a bunch of ripped up guys in there getting ready to spar. And so, I walk in, I'm like, hey, what's up? The coach was like, can you fight? And like we talked about earlier, I got in several fights growing up.
Right.
Thought I knew how to fight. And so I was like, yeah, I can fight. Just like everybody who's never like fought a trained fighter thinks that they can fight. You can't fight.
Yeah.
I don't care how many street fights you've been in. I don't care how tough you think you are. You can't fight. Period.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could probably throw like haymakers, but street fights is 30 seconds, a cloud of dust, and it's over with. So he's like, yeah, I can fight. And so he gave me a pair of gloves. I'm not even sure if I had a mouthpiece. He's like, okay,
that's
cool.
Not good.
Yeah, but whatever, man. I'm not gonna shy away, especially because your first day on the job, so to speak, man. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, sure.
And once again, I thought I could fight. I get in there with Walt, and man, they say go, and man, he wasn't malicious, but man, he's a big dude, man. He's really fast, really athletic, and he hits really hard. So I spent probably 4 minutes and 58 seconds of a 5-minute round in the corner with my hands, like, covering my head. And he's just, a human punching bag. So, after the round was over, I get out of the ring and, I think to myself, man, I loved it. I thoroughly loved it. I fell in love with it right then and there. I said, man, I want to do this. This is what I want to do, totally new skill set. I know nothing. They're going to have to teach me how to do everything. So Fast forward like 4 years later, I've got 8 fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy how it all played out. Now,
Mhm.
before I ask you about a couple of your fights and some of your achievements, your nickname is your boy. So how did you get that nickname? I wanted to ask you that.
Man, if you just listen to, me talk or, just anybody talk, a lot of people say it. I probably just say it a little bit more than everybody else, like help your boy out or do this for your boy or let your boy get this or whatever.
Yeah.
Not really, kind of like talking in the, second person or whatever. And, man, one of my teammates, Matt Elkins, he just kept calling me your boy. So I was like, man, you know what? I think that's going to be the nickname. Yeah. And then, man, the first time Bruce Buffer said it and Joe Martinez, I was like, man, that's it, man. That just sounds that just sounds perfect the way they say it.
Yeah.
Especially when they say your boy Eryk Anders instead of Eryk your boy Anders. It sounds way better, I think.
I totally
when it
agree
goes
with
in
you
front
on
of the
that.
name.
Yeah, for sure.
I had to tell him, man. I had to, call Bruce to the side. I was like, listen, man, it's your boy Eryk Anders, not Eryk your boy Anders. And he was like, man, I like that. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. What's Bruce like? Just a quick side note. Is he a pretty cool guy? He seems like he's a pretty fun guy.
Yeah, man, he's super cool, and I think he knows that, like, he's a fan favorite. So, like, I take my kids to the fight, and then, like, in between, while the fight's going on, he may get up to go to the restroom or whatever, and like walk past us, and then I'll be like, "Hey, Bruce, man, you take a picture of my kids," and he's a super engaging guy. I see him taking pictures with all the fans whenever he can, and he's actually kind of funny, man. I always talk to him after a fight, especially if I've won. I had a pretty long conversation with him after my last fight in Minneapolis. So, super cool dude, man.
Nice.
That's good. So, turn to fighting. You fight 22 amateur fights before turning pro. That was something that Ben and I both noticed. Was there like a specific reason you fought that many amateur fights? Because we were both like, wow, that's like pretty good bit of fights for an amateur.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't know anything. Like, I fought my first amateur fight like a month after training. And then, man, I just fought like every other week for like 2 years.
Wow.
And, man, I was fighting at 205. I first started at heavyweight. Then I was fighting at 205. And then, I started looking, then I started watching the UFC, and I just saw how big the 205ers were, and I was like, man, I don't know about that. And so then I, dropped to 85, but that was like an experiment. So like I had to learn how to cut that much weight.
Yeah. Well, what's your walking weight, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm like 220 right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was even bigger than this the first time I tried it.
Gotcha.
Just because I still had like that football mass,
Yeah.
So I, it was just an experiment, trial and error. I did the whole not eat for a week thing, trying to make weight. And then, so then I finally turned pro. And then, I met my wife, actually the night of my pro debut. And, pretty much since then, she's been my nutritionist. And, I went from like not eating, thinking that was the way to cut weight. And then she was like, why are you doing that? And I was like, oh, baby, this is how it goes, man. She was like, no. So I went from like eating like once a day to like eating 8 times a day and having more energy, cutting weight a lot easier. It just made it super simple. And I was just like, man, I think you were put in my life for a reason. So
yeah, exactly. That's one thing that, when you find the woman that you're supposed to be with, you'll find that happens a lot. Like you're like, I should just probably listen to you as opposed to being like, baby, I got this, And when she's like, hey, maybe you should do it this way, it's usually gonna be the right way.
It's funny you say that because we've been married like 4 years now, and man, I still do that. She'll be like, man, you should probably do this. I'm like, nah, baby, you don't know what you're talking about, man. I got this.
Your boys got it.
I still do it all the time.
Yeah, man. Your boy got that. Don't even worry about it. And then like a month later, I'll be like, baby, what was that you were saying about, cutting weight? And then she gives me shit, of course. But that's to be expected,
Yeah,
so.
man.
Yeah.
I see your shirt there says holistic hydration, and that has a lot to do with, your hydration.
Yes. I'm actually, my buddy owns a like an IV place up the street here. Obviously, I can't use it, but
that was my next question. I was like, aren't you not allowed to use an IV? I mean, like, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't do IVs, but man, they do like blood testing up there. They can tell you like like what vitamins and nutrients and stuff you're deficient in, so you can like kind of tailor and rearrange your diet and stuff like that. So that's what I use them for. But my wife goes up there like every other week, gets an IV with some, vitamins and minerals and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. So yeah, after your amateur fights, you fight in a couple smaller pro promotions. You make your Bellator debut. You win in 23 seconds, defeating Brian White. Even though you only fought one time in Bellator, did you like it as an organization?
Yeah, man, they were cool. It was the most I had been paid for a fight. And, man, I kind of like lobbied and, they also gave me like, it was me and another guy from the gym who fought for them, a guy named Omar Johnson, fought for Bellator that night. And they gave us a percentage of the ticket sales that we sold for the fight. And, man, we sold like $8,000 in tickets for a show that was 4 hours away. The show was in Memphis. We live in Birmingham.
Oh, wow.
So, I thought that would kind of impress the Bellator guys. So,
yeah,
man, I lobbied, tried to politic, saw Scott Coker, and I was like, hey, thank you for the opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, who are you? And I was like, man, I'm Eryk, man. I just knocked it. And, I was still like, this is right after the fight,
Yeah.
So I'm still sweaty and, whatnot. And I was just, man, I just knocked the guy out in 23 seconds, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. Yeah. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And then I think right after that, I may have fought one more time on the local circuit. Maybe in Tennessee, I think. And then I fought for LFA twice, became the middleweight champion.
Yep.
And then got the call to fight in the UFC.
Yep. So, yeah, like you said, LFA, the inaugural middleweight champion, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think RFA and Legacy, became one and became LFA. And so, they say inaugural, but, it's just two promotions becoming one. So,
gotcha.
Whatever.
It's like the Universal Championship when the two belts combine.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So then you make your UFC debut. You win by a quick first-round knockout against Rafael Natal.
Yeah. I knocked Rafael out in like 3 minutes or 2:45 or something like that.
Yeah. And then you defeat Marcus Perez by unanimous decision. And then you get to headline a UFC fight night against Lyoto the Dragon Machida, UFC legend, probably future Hall of Famer. So what was it like stepping into the octagon that night and you're just like inches away from a well-known icon in the UFC like that? Like, did you really feel at that point you're just kind of like, I kind of made it a little bit?
I mean, not really. It was cool because, Lyoto was my guy. When I first started watching the UFC, it was like Lyoto versus Shogun. So and I just thought it was cool, like the Dragon. Like how much more of a martial artist can you be to have a name like the Dragon? So
yeah,
I played with him on the game. He was just my guy.
Are you a big gamer?
But not really. But my roommate in college was. So,
okay.
I'd sit down every now and then, play the game and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was cool that I was fighting a dude that I used to watch. But at the same time, like I came to do business.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to be a fan, but I'm not a fan anymore. He's an opponent. So it didn't matter who that is across the cage there. I'm trying to knock their head off.
Right. So that one ends in a split decision loss for you, but then you bounce back with a performance of the night bonus, I believe, against Tim Williams, where you finish him with a third round knockout. But then following that, You have a little losing streak in the UFC where you drop 3 straight, but it's to very well-known names, to Thiago Santos, Elias Theodorou, and Khalil Roundtree Jr. So what goes through your mind when you're at that point after you do go through a losing skid?
Man, it is what it is. I feel like my UFC career is kind of like life. It's up and down. But at the end of the day, man, you get up, brush yourself off, and keep moving forward.
Right.
The Thiago Santos fight, man, I'll fight 10 of those fights. That was fun, regardless of the outcome. That was fun for me. That was like the first time someone actually like stood in the middle of the cage with me and threw down instead of like either just backing up to the cage or running around in circles. So it was fun for me. And then we fight Theodoro. Don't really feel like I lost that fight, but the judges say differently.
I was about to say, not just because I'm a fan, but I mean, as objectively as possible, I thought that you won that fight. I was kind of shocked when they read that decision, but
it's one of those things, man. It is what it is. I think I had some opportunities. Him and Machida both. I had opportunities in both fights to get him out of there. But with Machida, I would have him rock, and I would just see his eyes roll in the back of his head. But instead of like stepping back and throwing punches, I would kind of crowd him, trying to wrestle him, try to keep him from moving. But I think if I would have just stepped back and threw 2 or 3 more punches, I'd have had him out of there. With Theodoro, it really surprised me how strong his chin was, like how well he could take a punch. Even though, I almost had him out of there in that second round, he recovered pretty quickly and, just kept, moving around. So, those are 2 like mistakes that, if I could get back, I think I'd get him out of there second time. And then, Roundtree, man, I kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed and, man, really just didn't show up that night, and he did in a big way. And
for sure,
kind of had his way with me. So, it's man, there's a lot of variables that go on in these fights, and man, it is what it is, man. There's got to be a winner, got to be a loser, but as long as they keep me around, I'm gonna show up every time.
Right. Well, and currently you're riding, a win streak. You get an impressive first-round comeback knockout against Vinicius Mejia. I'm assuming that was probably pretty exciting, to get back in the win column following those 3 losses, especially in a fast way and very dominant way like that.
Yeah, man. After that Roundtree fight, I kept hearing him talking to this hypnotist. Listen to his thing on the Joe Rogan podcast. He kept talking about hypnotist.
Yep.
So, I even reached out to Khalil and I was like, man, who is this guy that you keep talking about? He gave me his name, his number, him and Julian Marquez, another middleweight in the UFC. So I reached out to Dom. He lives in Vegas, so I went out there for like 2 weeks, met with him a couple times. And, man, before I fought Machida, or even when I fought Machida, man, I would just, watch film, see how a guy moved, and, saw how they fight. And then, man, I would just like, get in the zone and like visualize me fighting that person. And, man, it would get to the point where like things that I would like see, whether it was a dream when I was sleeping or like kind of daydreaming on the couch or whatever, would manifest in a fight. Like,
wow.
Yeah. And then, for whatever reason, man, after the Santos fight, it just, it didn't really, I don't want to say it didn't work, but man, I just had a hard time getting back to that place. And I went and saw Dom, the hypnotist, after Roundtree, and man, kind of got back to that spot. And I knew that I was going to knock Vinicius out. One, because he had just got knocked out a few earlier this year, and 2, I knew that he would be desperate for the takedown. So I knew that we'd wrestle a little bit. I knew that I would defend the takedown. And when I either A, got up off the ground or defended the takedown, that I would turn the corner and his chin would be right there for me to, just whack.
Yeah.
And, it happened in the fight.
Yeah. That's super cool to hear that. I'm glad that you shared that story. All right. Well, to close out the show, every time we have a new guest, it's a fighter on, we like to play word association with them. So we just have 10 words at random, pretty much related to like MMA, Alabama, that kind of stuff, like that's relevant to you. So I've selected 5 words, Ben selected 5 words, and we're going to alternate each time. So my first word is jiu-jitsu.
Well, you just want me to give you like the first thing that comes to
the first word that comes to your head.
Yep.
Jiu-jitsu, me.
All right.
Dana White.
The boss, El Jefe.
Birmingham.
The next place the UFC is going to have an event.
Hey, I hope so.
Heavy hands.
Cormier.
Leg kicks.
Ooh, Khalil Roundtree. You just gave me brought back a nightmare, man.
Nick Saban.
Man, myth, and the legend.
Auburn.
You don't have a word for Auburn. Just
That's my thoughts too, brother.
Southpaw.
Me.
Colby Covington.
The worst shit talker in the game.
All right, Ben, final one.
Determination.
Eryk Anders.
Hey. All right.
Boy.
Your boy. Eryk, thank you so much for doing this. Pleasure was all ours, man. But for any of our listeners that are not following you on social media, where can they find you at?
Man, you guys can find me at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Eryk Anders, ErykAnders, man. Appreciate you guys for everything.
All right.
Thanks so much,
Eryk. Well, that wraps up episode number 21 of The Fight Addicts. Again, we want to say a special thank you to Eryk Anders for taking time out of his night to do that with us. That really meant the world to us. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or in any other podcasting app, be sure to subscribe to the show. That way you don't miss any new content from us. And leave us a 5-star review if you enjoyed the episode. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That way you never miss hearing from us. Be sure to follow Eryk on Instagram and Twitter at Eryk, ERYK Anders. And as always, follow us on social media at The Fight Addicts, and follow mine and Ben's personal Twitter accounts at TFA_Seth and at TFA_Ben. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see y'all next time.